Step 4, exploring data. In this step, we want to read into our real dataset. The dataset we're using is the travel motive dataset, which contains 20 travel motives reported by 1,000 Australian residents in relation to their last vacation. And in addition, that dataset also contains some further socio-demographic variables, descriptor variables for the respondents. The dataset is available in a CSV file, so a comma-separated value file, so that's a plain text file which contains in the first row the variable names, and in all subsequent rows each row contains information on one respondent, and the different values observed for a respondent are separated by commas. This comma-separated value file is contained in package MSA, the package which comes with the book, and we can look at where it's located on our computer once we have installed package MSA using the system file command. So we execute this, and then we see the full path to that file vacation.csv. If we have the path, we can read it in. Well, the other thing we could do is we could copy the file from its current location to where we are at the moment and read it in from the current location. Or we could also, after copying, open it with another program, like a spreadsheet program, and have a look at the data set. What we're doing here is we use read.csv to read in the data set into R. The first argument of that function is the file. So we specify the path to where the file is located, and then we set check.names to equals false, which means that the variable names contained in that file are read into R without changing them, because they contain white spaces, and by default the white spaces would be replaced by dots, and we want to avoid this, so we set check.names equals false. So we read in the dataset into R, and then we have the object vec, which contains now this dataset. It's in R stored as a data frame, and we can have a look at it. What does it contain? With call names of vec, we get the variable names. So we see that the first variable is called gender, the second is called age, and so on and so forth. And starting from variable 13 until the last variable 32, we have these 20 travel motives where respondents were asked to reply if this applies to them, to the last vacation they've been doing or not. So these are binary variables with yes and no. To check if reading in the dataset was successful, we can look at the dimension of the data frame. So we see here the result is we have 1,000 rows and 32 columns. That's the dimension. And 1,000 rows means we have 1,000 respondents, and 32 columns means we have 32 variables. And to get a quick overview on this data frame, we can use the summary function. The summary function in R is a generic function, so it will do different things depending on what you put into, with which object you call it. We call it with a data frame, and we use only variables 1, 2, 4, and 5, which means we're using gender, age, income, and income 2, and we want to have a summary for these 4 variables. And what the summary function for data frame does, it applies a summary to each of the variables. So we get a summary of gender, which means gender is a categorical variable with 2 different categories, 2 levels in R. And we see we have 512 men and 488 women in our dataset. Age is a metric variable, and this is summarized with the 5 number summary, which is the minimum, the first quartile, the third quartile, the max, and the median. So this is a quantile-based summary. We know that the youngest respondent in the dataset is 18 years old. The oldest respondent is 105 years old. We have 50% of the respondents are between 32 and 57 years old, and the median age is 42, whereas the mean age is 44. And then we have two further categorical variables, income and income 2. So they measure more or less the same thing, but they differ in the number of categories they have. And what we also see is that there are NAs in that variable. NA in R means not available, and this is a special category for missing data.